crypto nation and mining family. What's going on out there, guys? Yo, hope you all are hashing it up pretty decently. And as you guys know, I've been dealing with all of my small form factor Bitcoin miners. And yep, this is going to be another video for my BitX Gamma. This one, we're going to say is brought to you by IxTech.xyz. Not really a sponsored, but he sent me some cool gear. And I'm going to give him a big old shout out for that, man. Just because, you know, it's like I respect the hustle. Game, recognize game. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, moving on, right? Bad jokes all aside. I was sitting there talking with a guy over at IxTech on Twitter and going, hey, look, there's something you got that's really cool on your website, but it shows it as out of stock. I don't even know if that is even available anymore, because I'm like looking at his website here. Let's see. Ooh, that's not the right one. Oh, that's one of them. That is one of them. And let's go ahead and look at this one, because yes, it's still there. Cool, excellent. I just want to make sure before I steer you guys in a particular direction that everything is still there. So but it's still sold out. So what I talked to him about, it's still sold out. Either he gets it in and it just sells out really fast because it's a really popular piece, which, you know, it's this thing is constantly sold out. I don't think I've ever seen it not be sold out. So if you are really wanting one, tell them that Crypto and Hot Rod sent you up over there to grab one of these. And if you know what this is, because there'll be a video on this. Trust me, guys, there will be a videos on this. But let me know what miner do you think that this is actually for. Don't go on IxTech and cheat. Don't go on his website and cheat and figure out what this is for. Just make an honest guess down below what you think this is for. What Bitcoin miner? Do you know? Do you really know? So, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. But that's what like kind of spurred off the whole conversation between me and him. And then he asks me, what Bitcoin miners you got? So I gave him a little rundown. He sent me a little care package. Dude, that's really cool. I'm just gonna say it. That was really cool of him. I'm honored. Now that I know what mounting brackets and stuff, I've got another upgrade on one of my miners that I'm gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna do some cool stuff, guys. I'm just saying. I'm like, you know me. I love tinkering. So I got a 3D printer. I'm gonna tinker. So putting all that aside, and now we're gonna be, going through and modding this one. This one I got from Pleb Source, and it was on sale. It was like $90, $100, something like that for this at that particular moment. And when it got sent to me, I looked at the cooler online. And I'm like, man, it looks small, but it looks like the same one that the Solo Satoshi was using, and it's like not horrid. It's not the best, but it's not horrid. Now, what they sent me was half the size of what Solo Satoshi utilized. So, I mean, you want to get one of those, links down below too. But this cooler is like half the height. That is a teeny tiny little cooler with an awful lot of fan. And I'll tell you, the fan does not keep up with cooling this. It gets a fart of heat on there, and it's like, and quits. It's like, what the and there's no cooling solution on the back. So as we all know, we've seen my 3D print for my solution. It has modifications so that I can put some cooling and get some airflow on the back side of this, so that the copper coolers are not just passively cooling. They're now going to be active cooling. That'll be one amazing upgrade. And I will be utilizing this fan. And it's a 5-volt fan because all fan outputs on your BitX Gamer are 5 volt. Why? That barrel jack is 5 volts. So we kind of want to stay in the right voltage family so that the fans actually spin at the correct speed. Ask me how I know. 12 volt gives you not so much fan spin. Don't ask me how I know this. I may or may not have had a 12 volt fan sitting around. And it was like, oh yeah, let me plug that in. It's a 5. No, it's a 5 volt. Things will work, but it won't be very happy. You won't get the cooling package you were looking for. You'll be like, why is it cool when I turn this one fan off? I don't know. So we're going to change that out. And then I also wanted to touch bases. I know it's something that's very much overlooked by a lot of PC builders that you see on YouTube. You'll see them touch upon this every once in a blue moon. I feel like it just needs to be reiterated for people who don't understand thermal paste. Are all thermal pastes the same? Let's dig in, right? As I'm sitting here, as we're explaining, I'm gonna put this awesome cooler on here, this Mirage. And the reason why I say that this is kind of inspiring a bit of a video for me, because it inspired me to get the 52 Pi low profile cooler, and 3D printed the mounts that I'm gonna need for attaching this to my BitX. So we're gonna be doing head-up competitions. I have high hopes for the all copper cooler. Those are awesome. I think this is gonna be my best performer because I'll have 4 copper cooling pipes. That's just an opinion of mine. We'll be looking at some point a video of me doing temperature heads up comparisons and how hard I can overclock these things. There'll be some interesting videos coming up. But so I mean, coolers are one thing. We know that, you know, you put the right cooler on there and life's gonna live happy for your equipment. And you know, it's like we all know that the smaller coolers give you the least amount of cooling because it can only dissipate so much heat. And that's why this cooler, being, you know, the same height as the fan and cooler combo already on here, we already know that this is going to be a superior cooler compared to what's on here. So we're not comparing apples to apples on this. I want to see how this one compares to the 52 Pi low profile cooler and the Ice Tower cooler that you guys have already seen me put onto one of my BitXs. So going back onto it, what's under the hood is all of this thermal compound. And what do you need to know about this stuff, right? So as like I said, as I'm taking everything apart, cleaning a little bit because it's been running for a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start disassembling here, and I will give you the top-down view. So you guys can see everything that I'm doing. But we got MX4 it's not the Arctic Silver thermal compound, so this is the non-metal. So you got 4 categories of thermal compounds that you can utilize that most people do. I mean, there is a 5th. That's going to be your thermal glues. We're not using that in this application. I don't recommend you to use it either, unless you're dealing with an old S9 or something that already had a glued on cooler. Try to stay similar to what you're pulling off. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. So if you've got MX4 from Arctic, it's not a bad thermal compound. I've used it on my PCs in the past many times. I have never had an issue with this. I have used MX4 on my 10 series GPUs. Absolutely no issues. So, you know, you're looking at a 100 watt to a, I don't know, what, like a 100 to 150 watt device. MX4 performed beautifully, right? But with the viscosity being, you're looking at 87 PAS, which is really on the lower side, and that is its ability to stop it from like getting liquefied and squishing out between the chip and the cooler. This is really low on the range. For what we're utilizing, this is like a 35 watt device on the high side. This will actually be just fine. I steer away from it because, you know, it's under 100 PAS, so it's like it'll pump out and dry out a little quicker. So yes, if you have Arctic MX4 laying around, can you use this? 100%. Your wattage is not overcoming this in any way, shape, or form. Your temperature on this is not overcoming the MX4 by any means, okay? Reason why I would say steer away from it now is that there's better compounds out there that you won't have to rechange the thermal paste as often. This probably, even on this application, you'd be changing it out at least once a year. You're changing out your thermal paste. I want something that's going to be a little bit more longevity on there, because it is such a low wattage device. It's not going to dry your thermal compound out that quickly. So you shouldn't have to really maintenance this other than dedusting because of the low ASIC chip count. So you got a low amount of thermal transfer. So that makes this usable. Is it the best? No. Now, even IxTech, they sent out the Thermal Right TF7 paste. This has got you 130 PAS. So you can already see that this is just on the viscosity rating, it's a lot better. The watts per meter Kelvin that it's on this one, instead of it being like this, 8.5, this one is 12.8. This is a far superior paste. Project Overkill. Now, why do I want Project Overkill? I hate to utilize more than 80% of its heat capabilities of thermal transfer. So the higher my headroom is, the more thermal transfer I can do. And where does that really add up for me? That adds up if I'm overclocking this and then the room gets a little warm. I still have a good buffer before I hit max capacity on this paste. That's what I like, right? So I've got Hydronaut, your Thermal Grizzly Hydronaut here. Is this good? Well, actually, it's better than the MX4, but still below the TF7, even though their viscosity is about the same. This one is 11.8 watts per meter Kelvin, so I have a little less of a headroom on this one. Wow. So not all thermal pastes are the same. So be careful on that. So even though these got the same viscosity rating between the two, and I'm using this with a Threadripper and a 3080 Ti being water blocked. And I have no problems with it. Should I be re-thermal pasting it? Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've messed with them, so they can both probably utilize a good new fresh thermal paste on there. Would it hurt anything? Absolutely not. I'd actually kind of want to do that at some point in time, get a little bit more performance because of the amount of heat that I'm able to put into the water block system. It will dry out the paste over time. So there is always going to be thermal paste maintenance, no matter what paste you get. So don't think that there's this magic paste that you can put down on there and it's going to be perfect all the time. Your region, if you're in a hot desert climate and it's warm constantly in your room where you're using everything, it's going to dry out and affect it a lot faster than it will me, where I'm in a humid environment. So pay that being attention for what you're doing, right? And then I've got my thermal grizzly here. This one has 140 PAS, so we can already tell this is a thicker paste, which is going to be, it'll dry out slower, and it will won't pump out between the cooler and the chip itself, so that it'll stay in place better even with higher temperatures. That's a good thing. This also has 14.2 watts per meter Kelvin. So these two would be where I would land. If I had only the thermal right that came with the YXTech stuff, this is what I would be utilizing. This is actually high quality thermal paste, and would be absolutely more than thermally capable of doing what you're about to do. If you happen to have some more expensive stuff and that's the direction you want to go, do it. I've already got it on my other miners, so I want to kind of keep consistency, so that I know that I'm putting on quality paste that is all thermally the same. This way, whenever I'm doing my testing between multiple different coolers, I can take the thermal paste out as a variable of why one performed better than the other. I'm already giving them the best ability to do their job. Now it's up to the cooler to do the rest. Today we're going to use the YXTech cooler, which is the Mirage cooler that they have their engraving on. And I've actually been curious on how well this one performs because it's all copper cooler, and that inspired me to actually go ahead and buy this 52 pi low profile cooler with the 4 heat pipes versus the Ice Tower cooler, which only has 2 heat pipes. We're going to be seeing how these things perform. So let's go ahead and start unscrewing everything here. All right, so had to make a quick adjustment on there. I noticed that the one screw was a little loose, so that'll be one critique I would say on this Mirage, is that it's really hard to tell if you're level on the cooler, or if the how can I put it, like, it's just really hard to tell if you got the right tension and if the cooler's sitting level. You should have a little bit of a gap between the legs that you're screwing through and the PCB, and then you're fairly good. We'll see if we've got good adequate coverage on here where it's laying flat. That's where, like, I would critique it being two things. I prefer spring tension springs because it's harder to over tighten those. I don't know if that's a possibility on this particular style of Mirage cooler on here. Does the nut and bolt system interfere with anything? Absolutely not. Everything will come together really nicely. The caveat is that it's just really hard to tell if you're too tight on there, tight enough, And like he should have been like anybody who's using this style of cooler should include a little spacer in there so that, especially if you're using a nut and bolt system, that it just stops you from over tightening. Now, the caveat on that is some people's 3D printers can't print anything small enough, and trying to buy shim washers that small does get expensive. So it's a trade-off. So I do understand. It's just one critique. One my it's like out of any design, there's always going to be that one flaw that you'll be able to find, right? And that's almost any design that I've ever seen in my many times around the sun. Is that sometimes you're playing a game of trade-offs of keeping costs right versus giving absolutely everything that's necessary to adequately do the job the right way. And that's just a small little it is what it is. As you see, I have put coolers on there like this. It's not a big issue. I just tell people the caveat when you're doing this is just make sure that you pay attention that your feet standoffs between the feet and the PCB still have a gap when you're done. And then look at your PCB. Your PCB should not be smiling at you when you're done. If your PCB is smiling, that means you've over-tensioned the board. And if you have it up against anything of a straight line, like I do on this particular case of mine, I can feel that the edges of the PCB are sunk down, and I don't have any weird like high spots other than this thing just not completely fitting into certain sections because like I didn't sand it down enough before I placed it in. But for the most part, I don't see it like smiling where the PCB's bent because the board's being torqued into the cooler. You don't want that. So if you see that, just untorque it a little bit and it won't be unhappy, and hopefully you didn't perfect world wouldn't do any damage. You do run a small risk of doing some damage every once in a blue moon. So careful about over torquing your coolers onto here. Otherwise, I'm gonna go get this thing hashing, and I'll give you updates on the next video. Yo. So with that being said, thank you everybody for being here. Smash that lizardy like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and may your watts be low and your hash be high, and I'll see you on the next one. Yo.